Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Nearly a year and a half since COVID-19 was detected in the Chinese city of Wuhan, the question of how the virus first emerged remains a mystery. But in recent weeks, the controversial claim that the pandemic might have leaked from a Chinese laboratory, once dismissed by many as a fringe conspiracy theory, has been gaining traction. Now US President Joe Biden's announced an urgent investigation that will look into the theory as a possible origin of the disease. Our diplomatic editor, Mark Urban, has this report.
The idea that COVID might have leaked from a lab isn't new. Indeed, last year, as the outbreak grew, it was Chinese scientists who were among the first to register their concerns. And then it leaked out that American diplomats had visited the Wuhan Institute of Virology, recording their safety concerns not that long before.
In Wuhan, it was an issue that was raised in a cable from the State Department. It was raised by staff themselves at the institute, highlighting that it is a less prioritized area. There's not proper funding going into developing a safety culture around biological research and dealing with dangerous pathogens.
But given the enormity of the crisis that soon enveloped the world, scientists wanted evidence but had to rely on hypotheses. Many considered the likeliest explanation was zoonotic transmission, the virus jumping the species barrier as SARS, MERS and Ebola had. From an early stage, the World Health Organization favored the theory of transmission from animals. Scientists who questioned that idea faced professional recriminations.
Well, they seem to all assume that the zoonosis theory, hypothesis, was clearly correct. And indeed, there was a bias of over 90%, that was so obvious other alternatives weren't worth looking at.
The problem with the zoonotic theory is that even after all this time, China's been unable to produce evidence, a genome of a virus living in animals that spawned COVID-19 in humans.
It is true that 18 months on, or nearly 18 months on, that we don't know more about the natural origins of the virus. We can come to whether it came from the Wuhan lab, but our first reflex would be, well, where is the similar virus in animals? And we do not know. For this first SARS virus, we knew within 1 year, and that was more than 15 years ago. Our technology is so much more powerful. It is surprising.
The Chinese embassy has given Newsnight a statement. They say, "We reject firmly the politicization of the virus origin tracing by some US politicians. There is no evidence that the virus leaked from Chinese laboratories." Now, it would have helped their case if during the past 18 months of so many people looking for a natural source of the virus transmitting from animals to humans, one had been found. But it hasn't. Efforts by the World Health Organization, including February's visit to Wuhan, have not brought any sort of closure. Although lacking in clear answers, some members of the panel dismissed the lab leak idea.
I've yet to see any evidence at all of a lab leak or a lab involvement in this outbreak, and I have seen substantial evidence that these are naturally occurring phenomena.
But Dr. Dashak's business had been giving the Wuhan lab money for research, leading some to claim there was a possible conflict of interest. The research going on there included gain-of-function experiments, deliberate genetic manipulation in order to produce something that will spread among humans, a field of research questioned by some of the world's leading virologists.
This gain-of-function is sort of a red herring. It's a pipe dream. It sounds wonderful, the idea of predicting the next pandemic, making a vaccine, making drugs to nip the next pandemic in the bud. It doesn't bear up to scientific scrutiny. Therefore, as it's not going to produce anything, what is the point of making viruses that now adapting viruses that can infect humans, and there's no benefit? There's a finite, small risk of these viruses maybe escaping or infecting humans, and zero benefit.
Recent emails have emerged between Dr. Anthony Fauci, the American health supremo, and Dr. Daszak, in which the latter praised Dr. Fauci's bravery in rejecting the lab link theory. It's also clear that Dr. Fauci had backed US government grants to the Wuhan Institute of Virology to look at possible future pandemic strains, experiments involving genetic manipulation. Now, the investigator brought in last autumn by the State Department to search for the origins of the human COVID-19 virus has alleged that the probe was sidelined because of that American funding at Wuhan, and that the virus itself was highly likely the product of gain-of-function experiments.
So that backbone was present, and then totally bizarrely, it was combined with the receptor binder domain of a pangolin, like an armadillo. How did they get together? But then even more disturbingly, we found the so-called furin cleavage site, or scientists found, of a human being, perhaps conveyed via humanized mice. And the odds of this genetic combination coming together were calculated as 1 in the millions by one national lab, and another private, well, actually university laboratory we consulted with said it was something 1 in like 13.8 billion.
That interpretation of the virus as man-made is still not accepted, though, by many scientists. So the question now with these competing theories is, can there ever be closure? Solid evidence of animal transmission could still emerge. As to intelligence material or a Wuhan whistleblower, that might happen, but it could just spark a fresh war of words.
I think it's not just a problem between China and the outside world. It's really a global phenomenon that needs to be addressed at the international level. So we need to put in place some sort of international oversight mechanism of these labs. We need somebody, an international body, that has a mandate to keep track of these labs.
That's a project for the years ahead, not made any easier by the rival narratives over COVID and its disastrous consequences.